Argentina, once one of the wealthiest nations in the world, not anymore. What happens when your bank account freezes?
It's the bank's problem. It's not my problem. So give me my money back.
Your government falls. And the only way to get a job is to win one on primetime television.
Girls, the moment of truth.
Coming up on Wide Angle. Major funding for this program has been provided by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, the Jacob Burns Foundation, and the Florence and John Schumann Foundation. Additional funding has been provided by the Rockefeller Brothers Fund and the Miriam G. and Ira D. Wallach Foundation. This program has also been made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Wide Angle. I'm Jamie Rubin. Tonight we go to Argentina, a country trapped in a profound financial crisis, which some fear could trigger an economic and political meltdown throughout Latin America. Wide Angle's producer Angus McQueen tells the human story behind Argentina's collapse.
Argentina is the most developed country in Latin America. For the last decade, Argentinians lived the high life as the darlings of the international financial community. Promises of first world stability and affluence proved an illusion. By December 2001, recession and growing social unrest provoked a financial crisis. The government froze all deposit and savings accounts.
There will be no devaluation. The peso will remain equal to the dollar and fully convertible. We have defeated the speculators. All depositors' money is safe.
The government fell when the police killed 27 people in 2 days of rioting. The political and financial crisis continued.
Let's take the bull by the horns. Let's talk about our foreign debt. I announce that the Argentine state will stop payment of our foreign debt.
Five presidents and 3 finance ministers later, Argentina is the story of what happens in a world of global economics when local confidence collapses. The people of Argentina know chaos. Military dictators have come and gone along with economic crises, but this political and financial meltdown has undermined all of Argentine society, especially a middle class used to shopping in the United States, vacationing in Europe, and the comfort of life savings in the bank.
I had $180,000, but now I have about $18,000 in my possession. That's all I could get from the bank in the last 5 months. I don't think about the rest of my money in the bank. It doesn't exist. But I haven't given up on it yet. I'm still fighting for it. But it doesn't exist. It was a family investment belonging to my mother. She's a widow. And my brother. He has a disabled son. And me. I'm out of work.
For unemployed biology teacher Dori Arias, trying to get her family's money out of the banks has turned into a full-time occupation.
Well, at the beginning, they gave back dollars every week. A fixed amount. It was something like $250 a week. Then in February, they reduced the amount. That's when we all knew that they were not going to give us back most of our savings.
Though the banks are open, savings accounts remain frozen. Customers are allowed to withdraw just 1,200 pesos a month. In February, the government announced all dollar deposits would be converted into pesos. For years, the peso had been valued at $1. Since the collapse, it has sunk to just 30 cents. So Dori's $180,000 are technically worth just 50,000 pesos, if she can ever get them out. Every lunchtime, customers converge on the banking district of Buenos Aires, but not to make withdrawals.
We Argentinians, our families, and some of the foreigners living here are all being defrauded, abused, and despised by the political leadership, who are not interested in us at all.
You have to live up to this contract. If the bank made bad investments, it's the bank's problem. It's not my problem, so give me my money back.
Me sentí tonta.
I felt like a fool.
Inútil.
Useless. Powerless. I hated them. I wanted to kill them because even though they hadn't said it yet, they had begun to defraud me. And they were going to rob me. And the robbers were my government, my state, my country. I don't care whether the bank is HSBC, Banco Rio, Boston, Citibank, or any other bank. My own government was allowing it to happen. The same government that a month before had sworn all deposits were untouchable. To make people believe that our savings were safe. People's lives became banks and money. How to withdraw, how to change it, how to get it out, and how many accounts you have. The more accounts you had opened, the more money you could transfer between them, and the more withdrawals you could make each week and each month. It's a simple calculation. It's pure math. If you have 2 accounts, then you could take $2,000 each month. And if you had 10 accounts, you could take $10,000. I do my tour around the banks to see if I was lucky enough to have a transfer credited, if I can withdraw something at last. Because sometimes you can't at 3 p.m., but it's 7 p.m. Nobody knows why. The system says yes, and then you put your card in and bingo. Then you get your money and you take it with you. It seems like you're stealing your own money.
Well, I worked in a cab company, answering the phones and talking to the customers.
Have you sold things?
Yes, I sold eggs.
Eggs? Where?
On the street.
Tell me, why do you need to work here?
Because we're 11 people in my house. My grandmother, my 7 brothers and sisters, my mom and dad. My mother is unemployed too. She lives with us, but she stays at home. So the only one supporting our home is my dad. And he's only one person working to support 11 people.
When did you immigrate to Argentina?
When I was 9, it was February 1989. I'm not sure. It was when Menem became president.
Every morning in downtown Buenos Aires, people interview for jobs. But it is also an audition for the new primetime reality TV show called Human Resources. The grand prize, a sales assistant's job in a clothing store. The winner is chosen from 2 finalists in a live call-in vote. The financial crisis and nearly 25% unemployment make the potential contestants desperate to get on the show.
I studied to be an English teacher.
You're an English teacher?
Yes.
I'm the producer of the show. We're about to start the selection process. Today we'll choose the 2 people to participate in the program. Later, we'll film your lives, come to your homes. We'll film you working at the shop for a day. Then there's the live broadcast, and you know the rest.
In the production office, Claudio Perez, the show's producer, seeks out heart-rending tales for his primetime audience.
My daughter has done nothing to these people who are in the government. So I feel very angry. I feel powerless.
So why is it getting worse?
Because I don't see as much of her. We used to go out every weekend, and now I can't afford to take her out. Because she'll ask me for a cookie or a Coke, and I just can't afford it.
Who does she live with?
She lives with her grandmother.
Oh, her grandmother.
She's separated. The father is gone. She's the one that has her child at the kindergarten.
I can guess who will win. The most beautiful girl. You know who I'm talking about. The one with the long curly hair.
Good, thank you for coming. Congratulations for getting to the final group. Now the finalists.
Y las finalistas son Samantha Bologna Piris y Mariela Alejandra Amaya. Así que un aplauso.
Tus hermanitos.
Mom, Dad, this is the TV crew. I've been chosen for the TV program. Tell Dad to come. I have something to tell him.
Dale, pa, necesito que vengas un segundo. Vengan, les tengo que dar una noticia. Salgan. La televisión, mami, quedé para el programa seleccionado.
I'm so happy for her. She wants a future and needs to work. I'm so happy for you, dear. Now, I'll tell Dad to come.
Economist Pablo Neumeyer is examining how 4 years of recession caused a run on the banks, with people fearing the peso could not remain on a par with the dollar forever.
Here we see the deposits in the banking system that is a measure of the trust of Argentines in their banks. So here we see at the beginning of 2001, deposits were over $75 billion. By the end of the year, they were about $60 billion, a fall of 23% in the deposits that Argentines have in their banks. That means that because of the fear of devaluation and the fear of default, people were just taking the money out, not trusting the banking system. Late November is when the corralito was imposed. The corralito is a restriction on the amount of money that people can take out of banks. So the reason for being of the corralito is to stop this loss of deposits by banks.
Dori Arias has given up going to the daily demonstrations. Instead of banging fruitlessly on the walls of the banks, she has taken to the courts.
I have gone to court over the violation of my constitutional rights, using a cheap lawyer. I'm filing my complaint to get some money back. This will be a very slow process. We look at each other, debtors, savers, poor people, rich people, or not so rich people. And we said, we have all been swindled. They put together a corporation to rob us all. We've all lost. Our country was stolen from us. And when your country is stolen from you, I don't know. It's like you've been deprived of everything. The land, the sky, the air.
With the economy shrinking at a rate even faster than the U.S. during the Great Depression, the crisis has brought all sections of society onto the streets. Human resources producer Claudio Perez arrives to film Mariela Amaya and her family at home.
Have you seen the show? What did you think of it?
I thought that...
Be honest, okay?
I thought that everything was...
That everything was set up?
That everything was a setup. I'll tell you what I thought, that it was a deal. I give you some advertising, you hire somebody, and then you fire them a couple of months later. Now we are expected to be happy because somebody gives us a job. It should be normal to have a job.
I explained some of this to Mariela. It's terrible that we are producing a show like this at this particular moment and in this country. Until last year, I was a news reporter. And now, well, most of us who are working on this show, we were fired from the news program because of budget cuts. Everyone on this program, producers and technicians, came from the same company, which collapsed.
It's hitting everyone.
We had the idea of doing a program about unemployed people. We came up with it because we ourselves had become unemployed.
Samantha Pires, Mariela's rival for the job, has the sympathetic advantage of being a single mother, as well as being unemployed.
I got pregnant when I was 14. I had my daughter at 15. At that age, you don't think you're going to have a child. You think like you're going to have a doll. I was too young. I was still a girl.
Do you kiss your boyfriend like that?
Whose? Hers or mine?
Hers.
I don't have a boyfriend anymore.
Samantha's new boyfriend is the only member of the family in work, but even teachers are not certain of getting paid.
You see the children fainting, and you don't know what to do. So with the little money you have left, you end up buying them some food. That solves nothing. Do you understand? You don't have enough food for yourself, but there really is no choice.
Not wanting the TV show to be a catalog of misery, Claudio takes all 11 of Mariela's family to the Holy Land, Buenos Aires' most popular theme park.
Great.
What are your dreams, Mariela? But first tell us, are you a believer?
I am a believer. I don't go to Mass every Sunday, but I am a believer. I believe in God and in religion, and I pray for things I want. When I go to church, I thank God for our situation and ask to have food on our table every day. Yes, I am a believer.
Most of us who produce this show were fired from this TV station. And we could only cash part of our severance pay. The rest of the money is in the bank. And of course, the money is all frozen. We had always felt that the government were doing things wrong, but we believed that someone would come along who would make things better. That's when we still had hope. That hope has been destroyed. You can live badly and still have hope, but now our hope is gone. This is true for the poor, for those who don't have anything to eat. And it's true for me, a professional, with some savings, a good car, and no family to support. All the social classes are suffering. It's happening to us all.
All over Argentina, bands of unemployed families have taken to blocking main roads, vainly demanding action from the government. These piqueteros are angry.
We want a different model for the country, a different country. We want things to change. We want the people to rule equally for us all. So every time somebody calls for a strike or a stoppage, whoever it is, we'll take to the streets and stop traffic. This is what we have been doing for a long time, being piqueteros. We won't let anybody go through.
You have this cocktail of a massive confiscation of the assets of the middle class and maybe years of saving on labor. Unemployment rates that are very big without a welfare state. And the social mix is tremendous, right? So when people talk about high crime rates, political instability, and so on in Argentina, in some way, the remarkable thing is not what people say that things are bad socially. What's remarkable is that Argentina is such a peaceful society and things are so calm.
Acá como somos muy traviesos,
we're breaking the rules.
Lo que decimos que cualquier
we say that anyone can produce currency.
Fabricar su propia moneda. Y los clubes de
so the barter club produces its own.
This new currency, printed in a small side street in Buenos Aires, is at the heart of an economic revolution sweeping disused factories and marketplaces throughout Argentina.
Hola. Hola. Sí.
It is May 1st, the traditional day of workers' protest. Ruben Rivera is opening a new barter club, a trueque, in a deserted factory in Buenos Aires. Founded 5 years ago, the barter club encourages the unemployed and the poor to produce their own goods and services and to exchange them in a cashless market.
These pillars were built to last for centuries. People planned their businesses imagining that the economy would last for a long time. Unfortunately, what happened in the 1990s destroyed all hopes for the future. The Barter Club is a self-help group. It's like Alcoholics Anonymous. But instead of having a problem with alcohol, the problem is money. Barter clubs show that we can do things without money. In a time when President Bush or the International Monetary Fund are cutting off funds and investment, and when there are high levels of distrust, well, it's time for internal credit.
Ruben is helping to create a parallel economy. Today, over a fifth of the population use barter clubs, more than 7 million people. The most common commodity is food, but the system has now drawn in lawyers, doctors, taxi companies, and an airline, using what are called social credits, the barter club currency. Normal money of any sort is banned. For Samantha and her family, who sell everything from linen to pasta, it has become a way of life.
My father got a job in a place that made pasta, and his last wages were paid in pasta. So we sold that at the barter clubs. That's how we managed.
We're starting up more and more clubs. This is a special one because we're based in what used to be the third biggest textile factory in the world. The barter club is a laboratory. Politicians and the finance minister should come down here and study what we're up to.
We have laboratories, x-rays, and ultrasound, just like any normal hospital. The difference is that you pay for it in credits. That's the currency people are actually using.
The price of the ticket from Buenos Aires to Córdoba is 27 pesos and 40 credits. That's one way. The airline joined the barter club just over 2 weeks ago. 3 routes operate. One daily, and the other 2 on weekends.
Ruben is pursued by both the international and Argentine press as an influential innovator.
I'm late. What do we think is happening in Argentina? A group of people have said enough is enough to all the protesting, to the roadblocks, to the pot banging. These protests can be considered childish, right? An elegant lady banging a hammer against the door of a bank is the most pitiful thing and won't get us anywhere. In a society where everybody protests, nothing gets done.
The credit currency is accepted throughout the barter club system, which spans Argentina from Buenos Aires to Cape Horn, and here, high in the Andes. Simple laws of supply and demand regulate most transactions. No one pays taxes. For many, the system is a peaceful rejection of a state which has failed them.
This is a great relief to us because you can get sugar, oil, some milk, I don't know, you may get some vegetables.
A few months ago, I was unemployed. Today, due to the Barter Club, I am a very busy unemployed person. These people are the people producing. We do not block roads, we do not paint banks, we do not throw stones. We just make bread at home, bread and wine. We make our own food.
Muchas gracias.
In Buenos Aires, Congress is under almost permanent siege from one set of demonstrators or another.
We're proposing a bill to the Congress. Our goal is to build a legal framework for the barter networks. Can we get in?
Ruben represents the most dynamic social movement in the country. He is meeting with politicians who are afraid to appear in public for fear of being assaulted. They have little time to concentrate on anything but the financial crisis. But the results are few. Progress is slow.
Your bill is frozen. I'm struggling to arrange for you to make your case to the Commission of Trade. But there's a lack of political will and interest. Sadly, I haven't been able to spend much time in all this because of the debates about the financial crisis.
Dori Arias bounces endlessly between the banks and the courts where her lawsuit is pending. Like most Argentinians, as the child of immigrants, she has the right to a European passport, and escape is now a temptation.
I'm a child of immigrants, like many other Argentinians. My parents are Spanish. My mother is 73 years old. She came here when she was 20. My mother looked me in the eye, held my hand. We were having lunch and told me, "My daughter, the time has come for you to leave. Don't mind me. The time has come to leave." She said, "Please forgive me for having chosen this country, for not having chosen another one, where you could have done better." What are you going to do when I'm gone?
I don't want to think about that.
Do you think you'll be better off?
You may be, but I won't. But sometimes life brings about things one doesn't want.
Perhaps I should take you with me.
What for? To be a burden?
Are you mad at Argentina, Mother? You always loved it more than me.
I'm angry with the government of our country. It could have been a great country, and now it's trash. When I came, there were jobs for everybody. There was food. Then, to me, it was a great country. You arrived here from Europe, and the country was good to us. But not anymore.
It all came home to me the day I took my best friend to the airport to see him off. I realized that my best friend was leaving the country to live elsewhere. I began to cry. Argentina was stealing my friend from me. So I cried with rage, real rage. I was furious because this crisis was stealing my closest friend from me.
Argentina is a land of immigrants. Now their children and grandchildren are leaving. 140,000 in the past 2 years. The U.S. equivalent would be over 1 million people.
Good evening. Welcome to Human Resources. Today, Oryx, a distributor of women's clothing, is looking for an assistant. But before we open today's show, I want to remind you that in our 24 past shows, the companies have filled 45 jobs. There are 45 families whose lives have changed since they went back to work. Now I'm proud to introduce to you the contestants. Samantha Bologna Perez, 24 years old, single, she has a child. And Mariela Alejandra Amaya, 21, single, she has 7 brothers and sisters. What was your last job?
I was an assistant.
What happened?
The firm collapsed.
And you were out on the streets?
Yes.
When she had a job, she used to take me places. Now we can't go anywhere. I want you to stop being sad. I don't like you being sad. I love you, Mom.
Muchas gracias. Now I am going on to meet Mariela Amaya. How are you? Now, let's get to know you a little bit more. Is that okay with you?
No problem.
When I'm upset, I go to my older sister, Mariela, for advice. She knows how to help me.
They always confide in me. I'm more than a sister. I'm sort of a second mother.
Being all stuck together unites them.
What a good family you have, Pedro.
I am lucky.
A life of sacrifice, but they are very well brought up.
I hope so.
La esperanza está quebrada. Si
Can we have the results of the phone-in? Girls, the moment of truth. Let's see. Mariela, Samantha. Who does the audience choose to win the job as sales clerk?
Samantha.
Since the meltdown of last December, the situation has steadily worsened. The recession has deepened, unemployment has risen, and deposit accounts remain frozen. On July 15th, Buenos Aires federal court decreed that the bank should return Dori Arias's family money. She has recovered about 60%. On July 24th, President Dualde decreed that court orders regarding deposits should not be carried out. Dori continues to fight for the rest of their money. Wide Angle continues.
Joseph Stiglitz, welcome to Wide Angle.
Nice to be here.
We've just seen a powerful film showing what amounts to a Great Depression in Argentina. Help us to understand the impact of this crisis in Argentina.
Well, it's having an enormous impact in Latin America and throughout the developing world. If this is what happens to the A+ student, the student who followed the advice of the IMF, the United States, if this is what happens, then many countries around the world are saying, we want no part of it.
Polls have suggested that now some 2/3 of the people in these Latin American countries that are going through this economic turmoil have turned against democracy as their preferred form of government. How troubled should we be in America?
I think we should be very troubled. I mean, turmoil in our neighbors to the south inevitably will cause problems for us, if only through migration, and we have an enormous amount of familiar connections between Americans and people in Latin America. But I think more fundamentally, I think Americans are committed to democracy, and it is of concern to us when democracy fails and people perceive that democracy fails. And the problem is, one of the problems is that they've had democracies in which they've not had the ability to make choices over basic economic principles, economic systems. They were pushed down their throat by the US Treasury, by the IMF. And so these
International Monetary
Fund, International Monetary, so they don't feel like these were their policies.
Are you seriously suggesting that most of the blame for Argentina's ills, economic ills, is the fault of outsiders, or do you think there is a shared responsibility?
Well, there's clearly a shared responsibility, but let me make it clear. I think it would have been almost impossible for anybody to have made the system of fixed exchange rates work in an environment in which they were linked to the United States.
So they were linking their currency to making it equal to the dollar.
That's right. And when the dollar went up relative to the euro, and where their neighbor, Brazil's currency went way down, they were put in a position where their currency was vastly overvalued. They couldn't sell their goods.
So they couldn't export their products.
They couldn't export their products. Their economic situation looked dismal. Anybody looking at the situation said, this can't continue. Seeing that, people began taking their money out of the country.
Early on, the Bush administration suggested that Argentina might be an isolated event. There wouldn't contaminate the financial markets throughout Latin America. Do you think they were right, or did they make a mistake?
Oh, they clearly made a mistake. The economic downturn in Argentina has already spilled over to Uruguay, concerned about Paraguay, Brazil, but there's absolutely no doubt, but there's a high level of instability.
But here we have a situation where Argentina is in this Great Depression, where Brazil, its neighbor, is suffering as well. Well, let's talk a little bit about some solutions.
I think the fundamental problem in these countries is trying to get their economy, in Argentina, is trying to get the economy started again. The IMF was originally created over 50 years ago under the intellectual aegis of Keynes.
The founder of modern economics.
Founder of modern economics, and he was writing in the period of Great Depression. He said sometimes economies, market economies, don't work. And when they don't work, there's an important role for government. There's a role for government in trying to stimulate the economy, to get the engine restarted, a word that was used as prime the pump. And money that goes into the economy to help prime the pump would be helpful. And the United States, in our recession of 2001, both the Democrats and the Republicans in the United States said, we need a fiscal stimulus. We need to stimulate our economy. There was a disagreement about...
We need to spend money.
We need to spend money, cut back taxes, do something. There's a federal government responsibility to help strengthen the economy. Yet in Argentina and other countries in Latin America, the IMF, which basically reflects the views of the United States, because the United States has a veto power, the only country with a veto power. The IMF went into Argentina and said, you have to cut back your expenditures. In 2 years, they cut back expenditures on things other than interest by 10%. It only made the recession deeper.
Should the IMF be helping to bail these countries out now?
Money from the IMF that goes to repay money to the IMF, or money to the World Bank, or money to the Inter-American Development Bank to repay international creditors is not going to help restart the economy. What they need is access to markets. What they need is credit that will go into the firms, working capital.
So they can export their goods.
So they can buy the inputs that produce the goods that they can export.
Paul O'Neill, the Treasury Secretary, is visiting these countries this week, Brazil, Argentina, and others. What do you think his message should be, and how do you think they will be reacting to the policies of the U.S. Treasury Department?
Well, I wish the policy were going to be a good neighbor policy, saying, look, at Argentina, you are in trouble. How can we get your economy started? The way we can restart your economy is the way we helped Mexico restart in 1995. How do we do that? We bought their goods. You buy goods, you create jobs.
So we should open our markets.
We should open up our markets, and that would be a real gesture of a good neighbor.
So what's an example of that? Argentinian beef, having no tariffs on that?
Exactly. It's very good beef, by the way. So American consumers would actually benefit from it. Argentinian wheat. Let's open up our markets. Mexico has done a deal with Argentina to try to buy some of the Argentinian cars. It would be great if the strongest country, the strongest economically, and one that preaches free markets, actually practice what it preaches and open up our markets.
Many have suggested the problem here is that when an American company or an American individual gets deeply in debt, they can declare bankruptcy and go to Chapter 11.
What there should be is more use of bankruptcy-type mechanisms. In the 19th century, when countries couldn't repay their debts, Germany, France sent their troops in to Mexico, for instance, and forced them to repay.
Right.
As recently as 1902, Western troops were down in Venezuela. And at that point, the foreign minister of Argentina made a speech about how inappropriate it was for foreign troops to come down to Latin America to force the payment of debt. We've gone beyond debtor prisons for private debts. We've gone beyond the use of military power for sovereign debts. But we really haven't gone to the next stage of having a bankruptcy proceeding. One of the things we are increasingly recognizing is that globalization has brought us, which is the integration of the countries and peoples of the world, has increased our interdependence. As we become more interdependent, we have to find ways of handling common problems, of collective action, where we have common problems.
Joe Stiglitz, thank you for joining us.
Major funding for this program has been provided by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, the Jacob Burns Foundation, and the Florence and John Schumann Foundation. Additional funding has been provided by the Rockefeller Brothers Fund and the Miriam G. and Ira D. Wallach Foundation. This program has also been made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.